You are standing in your backyard, holding a bag of fertilizer that costs more every single year, staring at soil that grows weaker every season, no matter how much you feed it. And somewhere deep in the Amazon, there is dirt so rich, so alive, so endlessly fertile that crops have been growing in it for over 2,000 years without a single bag of anything added. That same secret is being used right now on small farms in Lancaster County and Holmes County, and the men using it are paying $2 for what the garden centers charge $50. I spent 30 years buying the bags, 30 years watching my tomatoes get smaller. The first time I walked onto a Jonas Miller farm outside Mount Hope, Ohio, I saw him sprinkle a black powder from a coffee can onto a row of peppers, and I asked him what kind of fertilizer it was. He smiled and told me it was not fertilizer at all. He told me his grandfather learned it from a book written before the Civil War, and the soil on that farm had not been fed with store-bought anything in over 60 years. What he showed me that afternoon traces back to an 1879 report filed by a geologist named James Orton, who traveled the Amazon basin and documented fields of pitch-black earth that local tribes called Terra Preta. Orton wrote that these soils were so fertile they could be harvested, sold as topsoil, and the remaining ground would regenerate itself within 20 years. He sent samples to Cornell. The samples sat in a drawer. And if you already own a home with a tired old garden bed, a compacted lawn, or a patch of clay where nothing grows, this is for you. You do not need new land. You need what the tribes knew and what the Amish quietly kept alive. The powder is biochar, but calling it biochar is like calling a Stradivarius a piece of wood. Real biochar, made the traditional way, is charcoal that has been crushed to the fineness of coffee grounds and then charged with biology. And the reason your garden center either does not sell it or sells a useless version for $40 a bag comes down to a single fact most people have never been told. Biochar does not feed your plants. It feeds the soil itself forever. Here is what Cornell finally confirmed in a 2006 study led by Dr. Johannes Lehmann. A single application of properly made biochar increased crop yields by an average of 38 to 45%. Not for one season, for the life of the soil. They tested plots in the Amazon that had been amended with charcoal between 450 AD and 950 AD over 1,000 years ago, and those plots were still outperforming fresh jungle soil by double digits. 1,000 years. One application. Now think about what you have been doing. You buy a 40-pound bag of synthetic fertilizer, you spread it, rain hits it. Within 6 weeks, 60% of the nitrogen has leached past the root zone and into the groundwater. You are literally pouring money through your soil and into the water table. Every spring you do it again. Every spring the soil gets a little deader because synthetic salts kill the fungi and bacteria that make dirt actually alive. You are not feeding your garden. You are renting a crop, one season at a time, from a company that engineered the dependency. The Amish figured this out a long time before Cornell did. In 1847, a Pennsylvania farmer named Eli Zook, and yes, that is a real name in the Lancaster church records, wrote instructions for what he called black earth powder in a farm ledger that still exists in the archives of the Landis Valley Museum. His method was almost identical to what Jonas Miller showed me. Burn hardwood slow and starved of oxygen, crush the resulting charcoal fine, soak it in compost tea or aged manure water for 2 weeks, then work a handful per square foot into the top 4 inches of your soil. Done. For the rest of your life and your children's life and your grandchildren's life. But here is where the story turns dark, and here is where you need to pay attention, because this is why you have never heard of it. In 1909, a German chemist named Fritz Haber figured out how to pull nitrogen out of the air using natural gas and extreme pressure. By 1913, the first factory was running. By 1920, synthetic nitrogen fertilizer was being pushed onto American farms as the miracle of modern agriculture. And the companies selling it, the same companies that became the names you see on every bag at Tractor Supply today, had a problem. Biochar was a competitor, a one-time competitor. A farmer who applied biochar correctly would never need to buy fertilizer again. So biochar disappeared from the extension pamphlets. The USDA Bulletin number 1154, published in 1923, mentions charcoal amendments exactly once, in a dismissive footnote. The agricultural colleges, many of them funded by the new fertilizer industry, stopped teaching it. Within one generation, the knowledge that had built the black earths of the Amazon and fed Pennsylvania German farms for 2 centuries was erased from public memory, not by accident, by design. The Amish kept it alive for one simple reason: they do not read the pamphlets, they read the old books, and they talk to their grandfathers. Now, if you already own a house and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch or starting a new farm, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You do not need acreage. You do not need a permit. You do not need a contractor. If you have a raised bed, a flower garden, a few fruit trees, a sad lawn, or even a row of potted tomatoes on a patio, you can do this in a single weekend with materials that cost almost nothing. The Amish method for small-scale biochar uses what is called a retort burn, and you can do a miniature version of it in a metal trash can for under $20. Here is exactly how. Take a standard galvanized steel trash can with a tight lid. Punch 6 small holes in the lid, each about the size of a pencil. Fill the can loosely with dry hardwood scraps, oak, maple, hickory, even fallen branches from your yard, broken into pieces no bigger than your forearm. Do not use pine if you can avoid it. Resin makes messier char. Then build a medium wood fire outside on bare dirt and set the sealed trash can directly in the coals. The holes let the wood gas escape and burn off. No oxygen gets inside the can. What happens in there is called pyrolysis. The wood cooks without burning. After about 2 hours, when flames stop shooting from the holes, pull the can out, flip it upside down on dirt to seal the holes, and let it cool overnight. In the morning, you will have a can full of pure, jet black, lightweight charcoal. One burn makes enough to treat roughly 200 square feet of garden for life. But raw charcoal is not biochar yet. This is the step the $40 bags skip, which is why they do not work. You have to charge it. Crush the charcoal with a piece of lumber until most pieces are smaller than a pea. Dump it into a 5-gallon bucket. Cover it with water mixed with either finished compost, rabbit or chicken manure, diluted urine. Yes, that is real. It is the cheapest and most effective nitrogen source on Earth, and the Amish have used it forever, or just old compost tea. Let it soak for a full 2 weeks, stirring once a day. The charcoal is loaded with millions of microscopic pores, and those pores suck up nutrients and bacteria like a sponge. Uncharged biochar will actually rob your soil for the first season. Charged biochar feeds it immediately. After 2 weeks, drain it and work 1 handful per square foot into the top 4 inches of whatever bed you are amending. That is it. You are done. You will never fertilize that bed again, and every year it will get better, not worse, because the biochar becomes permanent habitat for the fungi and bacteria that make soil fertile. A 2014 study out of Penn State Extension running trials in Berks County, measured soil organic matter in biochar treated plots against conventionally fertilized plots over a 7-year period. The biochar plots gained 2.1% organic matter. The conventional plots lost 0.4%. Translated into plain English, the Amish-style plot got richer every year while the modern plot quietly died. And now I am going to tell you the part I promised at the beginning, the secret finale, the thing I did not believe until I watched it work with my own eyes on a Sunday afternoon in Holmes County. There is a final ingredient the Amazonian tribes added to their Terra Preta that almost nobody in the modern biochar movement talks about. It was documented by a Dutch soil scientist named Wim Sombroek in a 1966 monograph simply titled Amazon Soils, which sat in university libraries for 40 years before anyone took it seriously. Sombroek analyzed Terra Preta samples and found they contained not just charcoal and compost, but fragments of broken pottery and bone. At first, researchers dismissed it as garbage the tribes had simply thrown into the fields. It was not garbage. It was the secret. Fired clay pottery, crushed into a coarse powder, and calcined bone. Bone that has been burned white in a hot fire act as a permanent mineral sponge inside the soil. The clay provides cation exchange capacity, which is the soil's ability to hold on to nutrients. The calcined bone provides slow-release phosphorus and calcium that lasts, literally, for centuries. Together with charged biochar, they create what Sombroek called a self-regenerating soil. Add these three things once, and the soil does not just stay fertile, it gets more fertile every single year because the microbial life keeps expanding into the pore space you gave it. And here is what the Amish do and what you can do this weekend that will cost you nothing. Save every chicken bone, turkey carcass, ham bone, and beef bone your family eats all year. Throw them into the wood fire when you do your biochar burn. They will come out white and crumbly. Crush them with a hammer, then find any old terracotta flower pot that cracked over the winter or any broken red clay brick and smash it into coarse grit with the same hammer. Mix 1 part crushed bone, 1 part crushed clay, and 8 parts charged biochar. Work that blend into your soil. That is Terra Preta, the same recipe the tribes used in 800 AD, the same recipe Elizuk wrote down in 1847. The same recipe Jonas Miller sprinkled from a coffee can on a Thursday afternoon while his wife hung laundry on the line behind him. The knowledge existed. It was buried. A few old men in black hats and a handful of forgotten scientists kept it alive. And now it is yours. Think about what this means. The bag of fertilizer you are going to buy next spring, you will not need. The bag the spring after that, you will not need. The decades of dependency, the leached nutrients, the dying soil, the rising prices tied to natural gas markets you do not control. All of it ends. The weekend you build 1 trash can retort in your backyard and save a bucket of chicken bones. You did not lose your garden because you did something wrong. You lost it because someone made sure the right answer was never in the pamphlet your county extension office handed you. That answer was in a German farm ledger from 1847, in a Dutch monograph from 1966, in a Cornell drawer from 1879, and in the quiet hands of men who never asked permission to keep knowing what their great-grandfathers knew. Now you know it too. If you are the kind of man who believes that real answer has been quietly shoved aside so someone else could keep sending you a bill, you already know what to do next. You know which coffee can on your shelf is about to become the most valuable thing in your garage. Tell me in the comments, what are you going to burn first? Oak? Maple? The old apple branches you pruned last fall? I read every comment and I want to know what you have on hand, because the next video I am putting together covers the one free amendment the Amish add to their well water that turns hard, mineral-heavy farm water into something plants drink like rain. It involves a single rock most people throw away when they find it in their yard. Subscribe if you want to keep recovering what they took from you. This is not a channel. This is a slow, quiet movement of men who are done renting their own soil, their own heat, their own water, and their own food from companies that wrote the rules while we were not looking. I will see you in the next one.